Pensamiento sistémico, unidad 3. De la magnitud que veas el problema será la solución que propongas para atenderlo. Entonces, ¿tu solución es suficiente para resolver el problema? Los problemas que enfrenta la humanidad son tan complejos y multifactoriales que se requiere la construcción de estrategias que sean viables en diversos escenarios futuros. El pensamiento sistémico es también una sensibilidad hacia las interconexiones sutiles que confieren a los sistemas vivientes su carácter singular, dice Peter Senge en su libro La Quinta Disciplina. Veamos el siguiente video, Pensamiento Sistémico.
Una empresa es un sistema formado por partes interdependientes que interactúan entre sí para producir un resultado. Comprender esta relación es fundamental para diseñar una buena planificación estratégica. Pongamos un ejemplo. Luis dirige una pequeña empresa que fabrica plumas estilográficas de alta calidad. Para ello requiere proveedores, maquinaria, tecnología, procesos, personal. Analizando cada parte por separado, todo parece funcionar bien. Pero a pesar de ello, la empresa no consigue producir plumas con el estándar de calidad deseado. Luis se pregunta dónde está el problema. El problema está en la interacción entre las partes. En la fabricación de plumas estilográficas de alta calidad es necesario personal especializado en el trabajo de metales, maderas, resinas, plásticos o tintas. Todo ello a través de procesos automatizados y manuales. La contratación de nuevo personal por una subida en la demanda y la curva de aprendizaje de los procedimientos de fabricación provoca errores en el proceso inicial, lo que genera problemas de calidad y retrasos en el resto, afectando a la productividad e incrementando el coste del producto final. ¿Cómo podemos solucionarlo? A través del pensamiento sistémico. El pensamiento sistémico nos permite simplificar la complejidad de un sistema y comprender la estructura que determina su comportamiento. En la fábrica de Juan, el pensamiento sistémico nos ayudaría a comprender la relación que existe entre el aumento de la demanda, la cualificación necesaria del personal, el proceso de identificar y solucionar un error, el retraso que un error provoca y cómo afecta todo esto a la calidad y a la rentabilidad de la pluma. Analizar y sintetizar el problema de fabricación como un todo nos permite ver el impacto que nuestras decisiones tienen en los resultados y cómo mejorarlos con el mínimo esfuerzo. Al mismo tiempo, poder comprender el funcionamiento del sistema nos permite incorporar nuevos elementos y visualizar su impacto sobre el conjunto, haciendo de la planificación estratégica un ejercicio dinámico.
Ahora veamos el siguiente video, Transformando ciudades con tecnología.
By 2050, 2/3 of the world's population will live in cities. Urbanization is happening faster than at any time in human history.
I think that the problem in cities as they grow is only going to become worse.
Globally, 900 million people are living in slums. Cities can't add housing fast enough. Today, an estimated 1 billion vehicles are already bringing urban areas to a standstill. Cities consume 3/4 of the world's energy each year and are responsible for around 50% of greenhouse gas emissions. These are challenges our cities have been facing for decades. But now some city leaders, businesses, and even citizens are taking new approaches to tackling these old problems.
This is where technology and imagination meet together and we create new cities.
They're transforming their cities with technology. Seoul, South Korea, one of the most connected, digitized cities in the world. Home to 10 million people. This city has a population density twice that of New York. In Seoul, the use of data is seen as the key to tackling some of the big challenges of city life, like moving its people around. City workers here use sophisticated technology to understand and transform how the city and its metro can be run. Mr. Kim is the manager of City Hall Station.
정보를 한 군데로 모으는 건데요. 역으로 모아서 그것을 전산으로 해서 우리 시스템의 전체에서 집계를 하고 수익금이 어떻게 처리되는 것을 여기저기 처리하죠.
The subway system transports 7 million people every day. It's widely regarded as one of the best in the world. And the entire network, from wheels to workers, relies on continually updating information.
그렇죠. 정보를 가지고 이제 회사의 정책을 쓰면 교통 우리는 수송 계획을 잡는 것이죠. 예를 들어서 뭐 인원이 어느 쪽에 더 필요하다든지 어느 역은 또 사람이 줄었다든지 이런 것들을 바로바로 할 수 있으니까.
The speed and frequency of the trains can be constantly adjusted to keep everything running smoothly. Smart cameras measure how many passengers are boarding and how quickly. And sensors on the trains and tracks monitor every last component to provide early warnings when maintenance is required and prevent a costly breakdown. And all of the data ends up in the hands of this man.
안녕하십니까. 여기는 서울시청입니다. 저는 양윤계 주무관이고요. 여기는 토피스가 있는 서울시청이 되겠습니다. 감사합니다. 다시 한번.
TOPIS is the city's transport, operation and information service. And this is where Mr. Yang and his controllers get to grips with all the data. Not just from the subway, but from the city's buses, taxis and roads.
모든 지역에 교통 카메라가 817대가 작동하고 있고 그런 빅데이터를 이용해서 도시를 더 스마트하게 개발할 수 있는 우리 서울시가 보유하고 있는 최첨단 IT 장비를 이용해서 서울시의 모든 교통을 파악하고 있고요.
Here in TOPIS, their goal is to use the data to anticipate problems and stop congestion building up in the first place.
도로에 사고가 발생이 되면은 그 부분을 저희가 사진으로 캡처를 해서 트위터에다 정보를 제공하고 있습니다.
So they use smartphone apps, social media, and the web to give citizens real-time alerts and alternative routes, and keep this megacity running smoothly. Transport is just the start. Seoul city planners are using data to better understand more of the big challenges this fast-growing city faces, from air pollution to affordable housing. High above the control room, there's one man who keeps tabs on the entire city. His name is Park Won-soon.
그런데 이 지역 주변에는 지금 어떤 상황이 벌어지고 있는지를 CCTV를 통해서 다 확인할 수가 있어요.
He's a former human rights activist, a political outsider.
지금 소방관들이 이미 활동을 도착해서 활동을 개시했다는 1시 27분 현재.
And for the last 7 years, he's been the mayor of Seoul. For millennia, communities have been overseen by powerful leaders like Mr. Park. But he wants to turn this on its head, handing responsibility to Seoul's 10 million citizens.
사람들은 정보에 대해서 굉장히 굶주림이 있습니다. 사실은 알고 싶어하는 욕구가 있죠.
The mayor's office can plug into real-time data on just about anything in Seoul, from police call-outs to street protests to pollution levels. From his office, the mayor can even tell you the real-time price of apples.
가장 싼 여기 성동구에 여기 금남시장은 800원밖에 안 하잖아요.
He's a bit more coy about the data the city holds on individual citizens. But the mayor is clear in his desire to share much of the information he has at his fingertips.
그래서 저는 서울은 감히 가장 투명한 도시다 이렇게 말씀드리고 있는데요. 그것도 그냥 공개하는 것이 아니라 시민들이 그것을 갖고 편리하게 적용할 수 있도록 가공해서 제공하는.
This treasure trove of data is spawning an industry all of its own. There are an estimated 30,000 startups in South Korea, many of which are offering innovative solutions to challenges like the city's housing shortages.
저는 서울시 공공대 입학 포털을 활동.
One company uses this open source data to pair up young people looking for accommodation with older citizens who have rooms to spare. It's a tiny offshoot of an industry that is growing rapidly in cities across the world. By 2020, this so-called smart city industry will be worth an estimated $1.5 trillion. There'll be investment in everything, from networks and sensors to new apps and services, from the world's biggest technology firms to innovative new startups working from someone's front room. This is the headquarters of Flare, a startup based in Kenya. Its young entrepreneurs are working with real-time data sourced from that most ubiquitous of modern innovations, the smartphone. Kenya's capital, Nairobi, is emerging as a vibrant tech hub. It is also one of the fastest growing cities in the world. Home to 4.2 million people, it's more than doubled its population in the last 20 years. As in many cities in developing countries, the aging, inadequate infrastructure is struggling to cope. Caitlin Dolcart is one of a new generation of business leaders trying to fill some of the gaps.
The problem in cities as they grow is only going to become worse when you don't actually have the systems in place to actually coordinate and figure out how to do that. And I think that the emergencies are the best example of that, because literally every second and minute counts.
It's 10 a.m. in central Nairobi. Paramedic Nick Mokua has been dispatched to an emergency call. But for many in trouble in this city, an ambulance isn't always the answer.
Yeah, there's always traffic, but if you respond, if you use the middle road, they will give you way. Love driving fast.
The problem isn't a shortage of ambulances. Nairobi has 150 of them, double the number needed in an average city. But the city has no centralized emergency service to coordinate them. Residents here are faced with 50 different numbers to call for help, and no guarantee when or whether their ambulance will arrive.
Nairobi doesn't lack resources. There's plenty of ambulances and there's plenty of hospitals. What there isn't is information to how do you get access to that, starting with tools that we have today, but from that, we're building a system that no one's ever had before. So you can think about it like Uber in the sense that you touch a button and the rest is figured out for you. You just know that the vehicle is coming your way.
The app aims to do the job of a centralized emergency service, compiling real-time data to coordinate and connect patients in need, available ambulances, and the right hospitals or healthcare providers. Nick and his colleagues reached the patient 12 minutes after receiving the call. Pretty fast for Nairobi, where an ambulance can take up to 2 hours to arrive.
So painful.
Can you wiggle your toes? Wiggle your toes. Wiggle your toes.
So painful.
Wiggle your toes.
My toes so painful.
We shall carry the samples of the drug tests that he's been using.
The antibiotics are over there.
Nick's team soon discovers the reason for the call: a gangrenous toe. Excruciatingly painful, but not life-threatening. Had this man suffered a stroke or heart attack, This smartphone-based system could have helped save his life. Across the developing world, innovators are increasingly exploiting existing technology to help citizens cope with their city's overstretched infrastructure. In America, innovators are also looking ahead to the next wave, anticipating data-driven technologies that could help predict problems before they even happen. Boston, Massachusetts is the 10th largest metropolitan area in America. It's home to 4.8 million residents. And while Boston may be one of the oldest urban settlements in this country, it's fast-developing world-leading technology that could help shape the cities of the future. This is the mission of MIT's Sensible City Lab, to anticipate the impact of technology on urban life and use it to transform the way cities are run.
Here at MIT, we are not in the urban solutions business. We are in the urban imagination business. And this is where technology and imagination meet together and we create new cities.
Lead researcher Fabio Duarte believes that data-driven technology will change our whole approach to urban planning.
When I start collecting data from nature, from infrastructure, from people, and putting this data together, then we can see new things about the city that we're not able to see.
It's a mission that takes Fabio's team to some unlikely parts of the city.
So I assume that there is sewage. There is.
Collecting data from a sewer isn't a challenge these researchers relish, so they've brought along a friend. Meet Luigi.
This is Luigi as a whole entire robot. This is the brain of Luigi, telling it how to function.
Luigi is a probe built with a big job in mind.
We're able to use stool samples and their urine samples in a sewage to understand people's health patterns and health behaviors more at the source.
This is no crapshoot. The samples Luigi is collecting could help reveal new ways to manage a public health crisis. From prescription painkillers to heroin, America is in the grip of an opioid crisis. Across the country, nearly 2.5 million people are hooked on opioids. Nationwide, these drugs are responsible for more deaths every day than gun crime or road traffic accidents. In Massachusetts, between 2014 and 2016, opioid deaths rose by an estimated 50%. Data alone won't stop this opioid epidemic, but data could start to provide city authorities with the tools to build better public health plans. That's what the researchers at MIT are hoping. In the lab, they're learning how to get data from poo.
We have the sample that we extracted from the sewage, and what we're going to do is we're going to take it, and what we want to extract from it is to separate out the microbes from it, the bacteria and the viruses and the DNA, so that we can process it for DNA data. And we also want to extract the chemicals from it so that we have data on chemical excreted from humans.
Using these techniques, the researchers can learn when and where there's been a surge in opioid use or bad batches of heroin. But they could also be deployed to take control of a host of fast-moving health crises.
The question is, now what are you looking for in that information from this sewage? That will allow us to see information on, for example, if we have viruses that are kind of becoming more prevalent with regards to an epidemic, or maybe not even an epidemic, just basically an outbreak, let's say like influenza in an area.
As researchers at MIT continue efforts to shape the city of the future, They're constantly looking for new ways to reveal more about the city of today.
That's where we change cities, when we put different data from different sources together.
Which is why the team has started talking rubbish.
Back this track out.
Yeah.
Boston's garbage trucks travel the same streets every week, making them the perfect vehicles for the collection of constantly changing environmental data. This one's been equipped with temperature sensors, humidity sensors, and thermal imaging cameras that keep check on the energy efficiency of Boston's buildings and the quality of the city air.
Although we deal with technology and we create technology here at a daily basis, we know that people are at the core of the cities, at the core of society. So it's only by making people smarter, but also sensitive, that we can create better cities.
Whether it's city planners using data to transform life from on high, or citizens using data to build solutions from the ground up, they're finding new ways to use technology to tackle the challenges faced by modern-day megacities.
Data from the city and making sense of this data, that we can change the cities of the future.
¿Cuál consideras que es el problema central que se presenta en el video y cuáles son las conexiones que encuentras? ¿Consideras que las soluciones que se muestran en el video tienen un diseño lineal donde participa un solo grupo de personas de una sola profesión o disciplina o integran diferentes aspectos, herramientas, tecnologías y expertos? ¿De qué depende la construcción de soluciones que atiendan problemas complejos? Identifica el impacto de los problemas globales y que tengan acercamiento con las cuestiones que hay entre los diferentes componentes de un problema. Ahora, valora soluciones tecnológicas que impactan en diferentes capas, pero que al final mejoran las condiciones de las personas. Ahora es importante que fragmentes los problemas en sus diferentes componentes y al mismo tiempo les des un sentido específico al escenario completo. También es importante que reconozcas las soluciones que se crean a partir de grupos interdisciplinarios. La forma en la que se descifra lo que sucede en el entorno refleja la estructura de pensamiento de cada individuo. Esto significa que cuando existe un problema, puede crearse un proceso tan limitante o enriquecedor como el que sus integrantes construyan a partir de su estructura mental. Por eso se sugiere que haya más de una forma de analizar los problemas y para ello el pensamiento sistémico es fundamental. Desarrollar las habilidades necesarias para hacer preguntas que permitan comprender más sobre un problema es parte de lo que se logra a través de la aplicación del pensamiento sistémico. Este es el camino que permite cambiar la percepción del mundo, reconociendo que los procesos sobre los cuales se formulan los problemas no son lineales y que forman parte de sistemas más complejos, en los que existen múltiples interrelaciones. Esto supone un compromiso constante en el aprendizaje sistémico. ¿Cómo puede incidir la forma en la que analizo un problema en el diseño de una solución? En el siguiente mapa se muestra el recorrido que realizarás en esta unidad. ¿Qué es el pensamiento sistémico? ¿Para qué aplicarlo en el diseño de soluciones a problemas globales? Liderazgo y pensamiento sistémico. No se puede negar que la rapidez en el desarrollo industrial y tecnológico de los últimos tiempos ha favorecido la calidad de vida de las personas, lo que se refleja en una mayor esperanza de vida, en la cura de algunas enfermedades que se creían imposibles de tratar, entre otros. Sin embargo, El precio de este desarrollo se ve reflejado en los problemas globales, que son retos que la humanidad debe afrontar. Para poder afrontar estos retos globales es necesario saber cuáles son los más urgentes y atender cuáles son las actividades cotidianas que más aportan al crecimiento de dichos problemas, para poder accionar soluciones desde lo individual y colectivo. Sin duda, por ejemplo, el cambio climático es uno de los mayores problemas que enfrentamos los seres vivos. Sus consecuencias e implicaciones están relacionadas con múltiples factores. Analicemos un poco este caso, para entender cómo es que el pensamiento sistémico nos puede ayudar a comprender y trabajar en el diseño de soluciones para este tipo de problemas. Revisa la siguiente tabla y observa cuidadosamente cuáles son las 3 principales soluciones que se observan. Después revisa el video y finalmente contesta las preguntas. Principales soluciones a los problemas climáticos de mayor impacto: gestión de refrigerantes, turbinas de viento, reducir el desperdicio de comida, dieta rica en vegetales, bosque tropical, educación para mujeres, planificación familiar, granjas solares, silvopastura, solar en la azotea, agricultura regenerativa, bosque templado, turbinas, árboles tropicales, repoblación forestal, agricultura de conservación, cultivos intercalados, geotérmica, pastoreo controlado y nuclear. Como pudiste ver en la tabla, uno de los 3 principales problemas que están relacionados con el cambio climático es el desperdicio de comida. Ahora revisa el siguiente video.
MIT is known for developing a lot of impressive technology. But hidden in the kitchen of MIT's Media Lab is perhaps my favorite MIT invention, the food cam. Okay, so it might not look like much, but it's actually quite brilliant. Let's say you have some leftover food. You put it under the camera and you hit the button. Food cam posts a photo to Twitter, Slack, and a mailing list, all with a simple message: come and get it.
It looks like a pretty good box of donuts.
Yes.
It looks yummy on the food cam.
It does.
Getting the food can actually be pretty competitive.
By the time we got here, just 30 seconds after it was placed, the whole building had swarmed and all the pizza was gone.
There's a mad rush of people that come from like every entryway in here to get the pizza.
So you got to kind of move pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's a game. It's like the Hunger Games.
Where do you...
Will and John invented the food cam all the way back in 1999. This is before Facebook, before Gmail, before social media as we know it. The idea came from a building-wide leftovers problem, and in some ways, this simple invention gets at the big problem of food waste.
I mean, that's sort of the serious part of what you have done, really, right?
There is no doubt that this completely helps reduce food waste at the lab.
Almost all of the catering people know that if they have spare food from their event, they can just hit the button and people will consume that food. And those are not even Media Lab events that are now fueling the food cam.
When we picture the stuff that's hurting our planet, what do we think of? We think of like smokestacks, cars, oil spills. We don't really think about all the food we throw away. In the US, roughly 40% of the food we produce never gets eaten. That's over 365 million pounds of food each day. While that's happening, about 1 in 8 Americans still don't have a steady supply of food to their tables. And all this wasted food is a huge contributor to climate change. If global food waste were a country, it would be the 3rd largest emitter of greenhouse gases, just behind China and the United States. So it really is an enormous problem and one of the easiest ways to address climate change. It takes a ton of resources to produce food. On top of that, you have all the energy it takes to keep it cold and to transport it around the country. And when food decomposes, it isn't just stinky, it releases potent greenhouse gases. Basically, we're trashing our planet to grow food that no one eats. But here's the thing, no one actually likes wasting food. It's just something that we haven't been paying much attention to.
Of all of the challenging problems out there, reducing the amount of food we're wasting is one of the easiest.
In the US, consumers collectively make up the largest portion of food waste. A family of 4 spends about $1,500 on food that they never eat.
Meat is less as a percentage of what we buy, but when you consider it in particular as a greenhouse gas intensive product, meat waste actually has the highest greenhouse gas impact.
And you don't have to be an expert to understand why food is going to waste in our homes. We're all busy and on the go. Sometimes I buy food without thinking, do I really need that?
There's even been a little bit of research to show that once something goes in the refrigerator, it's actually worth less to us than before.
Researchers asked people how they would feel if they got home from the grocery store and dropped a carton of eggs.
And then they asked, well, if your eggs sat in your refrigerator for 6 weeks and then you didn't use them, how would you feel about that? And people felt a lot less remorse. I think a lot of the waste in our society does come down to choice and wanting to have the option to eat something at any time, whether or not we use it.
Part of the reason why we overbuy food is that we've got tons of space to store it in. Refrigerators have grown about 15% since the 1970s.
One of the things we found in our research is that people are uncomfortable with white space when it comes to food. So we love it in buildings or in design, but when it comes to food, we do not want to see empty space in our refrigerators, on our plates. And so I really believe that in some subliminal way, we're just filling everything. And if we had smaller refrigerators that let us see everything that was in there, that in itself would lead to quite a bit less waste in our homes.
And it isn't just our refrigerators that have gotten bigger. The average dinner plate has grown by 36% since 1960. And when you have a big plate, you tend to put a lot of food on it, whether or not you can eat it all. This is something Jill Horst noticed at UC Santa Barbara.
You have a tray that's 14 by 18 inches and you feel you need to load it up with food. You would see students that had 4 glasses, water, juice, soda, milk, and you would go to the tray return and they would still be full.
In 2009, the dining hall stopped using trays. Students can take as much food as they want, but there isn't a tray to pile it onto.
The food waste per person per tray reduced by 50%. I mean, so that was huge.
Let's say that the average student weighs 6 ounces of food per meal. That may not seem like a lot, but UC Santa Barbara serves 13,000 meals per day, so that's nearly 5,000 pounds of wasted food. It's like throwing 350 Thanksgiving turkeys into the garbage every single day.
And when you take the trays away and it becomes 3 ounces, it's a significant impact to help with not only the food waste, but food cost.
So it turns out that something very small, like removing a tray or changing the size of a plate, can have this profound impact on our behavior. And it doesn't take much effort because the effect is subliminal. The other thing they're paying attention to at UC Santa Barbara is portion size.
Each plate is portioned, 1 portion for a student. They could take as many portions as they would like, but we are actually plating the right size, the right amount that we should be eating.
We've gotten used to these gigantic portion sizes at restaurants, and in a subtle way, it encourages us to overeat and throw away a lot of food.
If you look around, there's not a whole lot of food waste on the plates because of the proper portioning. I mean, that's somebody's meal. That's all they have left.
None of us are perfect. And wasting less food isn't just going to happen overnight. But just having it on our radar can really help us waste a lot less. And if we do have extra food, then let's at least try to get it to people who could use it.
There is so much high-quality surplus that's wasted that just needs to find the people that need it the most.
Komal is the founder of Copia, a startup that's trying to recover all this perfectly good food.
If you imagine the world's largest football stadium filled to its absolute brim, that's how much food goes wasted every single day in America. And I'm not talking about last night's pad thai or this morning's half-eaten pastries, but untouched, uneaten, perfectly edible food.
So we don't need to purchase or make more food. We just need to figure out how to get it to the people who need it. MIT's Food Cam is great at recovering food, but when you start scaling this up from one building to an entire city or an entire country, it becomes much more difficult. Let's say you're a small company and you have 200 sandwiches left over from an event. That's a lot of food, but it takes time and effort to figure out how and where to donate it. Most people really don't want to deal with all of this.
It shouldn't be this hard to do a good thing. Like, how cool would it be if people who have food could say, hey, we have food, and people who need food could say, hey, we need food, and we could connect these two people and clear the marketplace.
So Komal is trying to make food donation easy and intuitive. If you have some food, you type your info into the Copia app. A driver will then come and pick up your food and deliver it to the shelters that need it. And during big events like Super Bowl 50, there's a ton of extra food. The issue is that it has a short shelf life.
Imagine 4 16-foot refrigerated trucks filled to their absolute brim. That's how much food we recovered. We fed 23,000 people in 2 days. Nobody slept. And it's not, hot dogs and popcorn. It was lobster rolls and pulled pork sandwiches and $300 cheeses, high quality food.
If we can get the food that would otherwise be wasted to people who need it, we're not only fighting hunger, but we are actually slowing global warming. It really is a win-win. And Komal doesn't want to solve hunger in just California. She wants to solve world hunger, period.
It's not about optimism or pessimism. I think it's just that we're hell-bent on making it happen. This isn't going to be an overnight thing. It's got to be policy change. It's going to be other entrepreneurs. It's going to be really big companies and institutions also taking a stand and saying that, you know what, we don't tolerate perfectly great food being wasted.
Look, no one likes throwing out food. So we've made a simple guide to help you waste less. To find out more, go to climate.universityofcalifornia.edu.
¿Qué papel tienen en este problema los productores, las grandes industrias, los canales intermediarios por medio de los cuales se entrega la comida a los consumidores? Analiza el papel de cada uno y descríbelo. Si hicieras un mapa mental en el que describieras el problema del gasto de comida, ¿cómo se vería? Créalo y compártelo. ¿Qué relación existe entre el cambio climático, el desperdicio de comida y el uso de herramientas tecnológicas? Revisa las reflexiones de tus compañeros y comenta al menos una respuesta. Uno de los principales aprendizajes de la quinta disciplina es que la clave para ver la realidad sistemáticamente consiste en ver círculos de influencia en vez de líneas rectas. Este es el primer paso para romper el marco mental reactivo que se genera con el pensamiento lineal, un solo punto de vista. Ahora veamos el siguiente video titulado Peter Senge, la quinta disciplina.
Peter Senge. ¿Quién es Peter Senge? Él es un estadounidense experto en pensamiento sistemático que sostiene que para dar forma al futuro se necesita liderazgo, para que éste sea efectivo y se cumplan todos los objetivos y metas. Hace falta un colectivo que ayude al crecimiento de la empresa. Senge nació en 1947 y se graduó en la Universidad de Stanford e hizo un máster en Social System Modeling. Posteriormente completó su PhD en Management. También fue conocido como figura principal del desarrollo organizacional con muchos de sus libros que ayudan a que una empresa logre que su personal adopte aptitudes positivas para generar mayor competitividad, como Danza del Cambio, Escuelas que Aprenden, Presencia, El Propósito Humano y Futuro, y muchos más. Además, se le ocurrió desarrollar un libro llamado La Quinta Disciplina. Pero, ¿de qué trata? Lo vamos a averiguar. Primero, dominio personal. Es aquella característica que define cómo manejamos nuestras habilidades y capacidades para el crecimiento de uno mismo y alcanzar lo que aspiramos.
Segundo, modelos mentales. Es el mecanismo por el cual una persona percibe la realidad, la interpreta y actúa ante ella, es decir, donde debemos llevar a cabo la confianza en nuestro instinto y así lograr nuestro objetivo. Tercera, visión compartida, donde todos los miembros de la organización comparten una meta, visión o interés en común, con la finalidad de progresar como uno solo. Ojo, la unión hace la fuerza. Cuarta, aprendizaje en equipo. Esta disciplina hace referencia al aporte de alineación y desarrollo de la capacidad de un equipo para crear los resultados que los miembros deseen y se solventan a partir del dominio personal y visión compartida. Quinta y última disciplina, Pensamiento sistemático. Es un marco conceptual que fusiona las anteriores y las pone en práctica, integrando la capacidad de comprender las relaciones que existen entre los diversos componentes de un sistema organizacional que obtiene resultados deseados. Y gracias a ella, se aborda el reparto de trabajo para elaborar juntos de forma óptima con el fin de que se alcancen las metas fijadas en la planificación y que sus resultados sean mayores que la suma de los individuales. Recuerda, para Senge, una organización inteligente es aquella que está siempre abierta al aprendizaje y capacita a su personal continuamente, englobando todo ámbito, puesto que debe adaptarse a los cambios que existen día a día en la sociedad.
¿Estás listo para utilizar un sistema de pensamiento que te permita comprender cómo todo está conectado y que considere todos los puntos de vista para poder resolver los problemas más urgentes de la humanidad? Reflexiona en torno a la forma en la que un problema tiene impacto en diferentes áreas, sus relaciones y la forma en que impacta con otros problemas. Analiza el proceso que hay entre la detección del problema y la creación de una solución, así como quienes intervienen en el problema y la importancia de su intervención en el diseño de una solución. Valora la forma en la que conectan los elementos que reconoces en el problema, las relaciones con otras áreas como los productores de comida, pobreza, desnutrición, producción de alimentos, desperdicio de comida, producción de consumibles para el mercado, entre otros. ¿Qué es el pensamiento sistémico? Es una forma de entender lo que percibimos a partir de la consideración del todo y sus partes, en donde además se puede identificar a conexiones a nodos, impactos y cómo es que todos estos elementos influyen dentro de un mismo espacio. El pensamiento sistémico y los grandes retos globales tienen una fuerte y clara conexión, pues para lograr la comprensión de los problemas que enfrentamos se requiere no solo del reconocimiento de los elementos que conforman cada uno de los retos identificados, sino que es necesario hacer un análisis profundo a través de diferentes niveles de cuestionamientos del porqué de una situación para conocer la forma en la que impactan las conexiones de un mismo problema. La información para conocer la forma en la que impactan las conexiones de un mismo problema permite identificar patrones que favorecen la construcción de las primeras hipótesis de solución. Para ello, el pensamiento sistémico permite formular modelos que facilitan la interacción y comprensión de los problemas. Para poder analizarlos según este enfoque, normalmente se siguen tres principios. Articulación del problema. En esta fase del proceso, básicamente se define cuál es el verdadero problema por analizar. Esto implica eliminar del centro de la atención circunstancias o elementos que, si bien forman parte del problema, no son el problema en sí. Para lograrlo, es imprescindible hacer un trabajo de investigación profunda que puede hacerse de diferentes maneras. Observaciones directas a la situación detectada, búsqueda de la información, discusiones grupales, charlas con expertos, sesiones de cuestionamientos al problema y todo aquello que permita comprender un poco más sobre su composición y elementos que lo rodean. 2. Análisis de sistemas. Para poder construir modelos que anticipen comportamientos, es necesario analizar el problema, que en estos casos se llama sistema, el cual se integra de diversos componentes que lo definen y que incluso pueden ser compartidos con otros sistemas. Lo que existe alrededor o fuera del sistema se llama ambiente, y este puede tener flujo directo con el sistema o simplemente no existir ningún flujo en el que intervengan elementos externos. Este análisis históricamente consiste en analizar la conformación de los sistemas con los elementos que se han mencionado para poder generar situaciones que favorezcan la construcción de síntesis. Uso de modelos. Estos son una representación que permite comprender la forma en la que interactúan los componentes del sistema que se está estudiando. Los modelos ayudan a comprender el problema para predecir comportamientos dentro de los elementos que los conforman. El proceso de modelado consta de 4 pasos, pero antes de analizar este proceso, veamos el siguiente video. Las 4 etapas del pensamiento sistémico.